Hey HTDA, soon we'll be getting the combat update, and today I want to share with you how I prepared for this. Hopefully this will help you decide how ready you are. We only have limited information about the combat update so far. We have some beta footage, we have some developer blogs, but we do know for sure that we'll be firing rockets and lasers at enemies coming after us from both the ground as well as the air. For that reason I set up my blueprints in such a way that the starting base can be limited to a very small area. This will hopefully make it easy to defend, but it also makes sure that I will never be too far away from resources to repair myself, my base, or restock on ammunition. We do know that the enemy will become more aggressive as you expand and increase your technology level. I hope this also implies that in the very early game you're pretty much by yourself without too much aggression going on. The first few hours of this game are anything but fast-paced normally, so you won't be zooming around the map to defend your base just yet. Now, in order to make my starting base as flexible as it can be, my latest playthrough has been very focused on logistic bots. This makes it very easy to set up additional production lines that will be able to interact with any other production line due to the modular setup. Specifically, it makes it very easy to have a simple mini blueprint that has some input boxes, an output box, and an assembler. That will allow me to simply put it down, set up the inputs and a recipe, and voila, I can now produce any new type of building, ammunition, weapon, or whatever else the developers will add to the game. And to make things even better, the logistic bots will be able to automatically supply me with all of that wherever I go. Once we hit yellow science and the other planets in your system become available is when I expect the true combat will start up. Not only is it very likely that our enemies will be setting up shop on the other planets, and we might have to come in guns blazing in order to get access to things like silicon and titanium, at this point having some form of static defenses will be crucial in order to keep your various bases safe while you are off planet. For this reason I plan on centralizing about 95% of my production on just 3 locations throughout the majority of the game. The first location being a mall planet, where I'm not only producing every building in the game and exporting it throughout the universe, it is also set up in a modular way with bots, which again allows me to easily add in new combat buildings or ammunition and stuff like that without too much effort, all the way throughout the start of the game until the end of the game. Having a central planet like this should hopefully make it rather easy to defend, because you have everything in one place, so just setting up the defenses should make it like a wall of fire where the enemy cannot get through. It is not without risk though, because if this planet ever gets damaged significantly while we don't have a backup ready, I am not entirely sure I will be able to recover, but yeah, if we can't defend this planet, we are not going to be able to defend any planet, that's at least my assumption. The second centralized production is a planet dedicated to sphere building. We have the production of rockets and solar cells here, as well as the buildings to actually launch them towards the stars. Having the entire production line as well as the railguns and silos on the same planet means that as long as raw resources are actually still coming in, my spheres will be getting built. I do have one huge worry about setups like this, and that is that it might be hard to defend the poles. We currently have no idea how exactly the enemies will attack us from the air, but if the AI is somewhat smart about it, which it might not be because this is kind of like a turret defense game at this point, they could easily destroy the pole hubs that we all love so much, as there's usually not so much place around the poles to actually put down defensive structures. Again, there might be a worry that's completely irrelevant at some point, but very interesting to see how that will turn out. The third and final centralized location is a planet dedicated to science. This will be producing science all the way from raw resources, drawing photons from our spheres, and then finally at the end of the game transforming it into white science in the late game. All of that is happening on the same planet. Of all the locations, I think this should be the easiest to defend because the footprint you need for this is relatively small, so it's very easy to build defensive structures around it. However, one prediction, or at least one worry I have, is that we might see the enemies being attracted to the actual production locations of your science. If that is what draws them in, then we are going to have a lot of fighting going on around this planet. Could be very, very fun if that is actually the case. I am really curious to see how the actual resource gathering on the random planets will work when we have combat implemented. Usually there is not so much going on these planets other than some logistic stations and miners scattered around the entire planet. Now, if all of these locations could be potentially under attack, that will get annoying fast, and it might be very hard to set up defenses in such a way that you can actually cover all of that area. In order to compensate for that at least partially, I set up a mining dome blueprint that centralizes the power, import and export to any of these random mining planets. As long as we defend this hub, rebuilding the mining locations if needed will still be annoying, but at least it's very easy as well. That said, I do expect that likely these types of planets will not be under much attack, because I can see that working if you have to defend 64 complete sets of planets. That's just not going to work. At least that's not what I think, but hey, we might get surprised by the developers. Speaking of defenses as well as offense, one thing I can only guess at this point is how space combat will actually work. The main reason I assume there will be some form of space combat is that the trailer suggests there will be space stations full of enemies. Now, in order to defeat those, we'll have to somehow take the fight to them. Will that mean we also have to somehow defend the supply lines in our universe as well? While it would be very cool if we get some space fighters to defend our supply lanes, that somehow seems like a bit much, but who knows? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. If you want to be ready for the combat update, I highly recommend you check out my newest masterclass series. All the blueprints I talked about just now are in there, and it also serves as a nice refresher in case you're a bit out of touch with the latest updates, like for example logistic drones and proliferation. Let me know in the comments, what would you like to see when it comes to the combat, what are your expectations, and make sure you subscribe to catch the new combat content when it comes out. And I hope to catch you in the next one.